I just realized I wasn't recording any of this. It was such a good start. God. All right, today's episode, how to exercise. So this is going to be for people who are newly diagnosed or who have been diagnosed for a while and they're trying to get back into exercise, trying to figure out how to get through all the challenges and hurdles that come with this condition and the BS that gets in the way. Genuinely, this is like the real ungentle part of the Ungentle Approach. First of all, context, because I'm a really skeptical person and I want other skeptical people out there to at least have a sense of credibility towards what I'm saying. I've had this condition for 20 years. First 10, sucked a bag of D's. The second 10 turned into like a desperate cry for my own help in life of just experimentation and trying to like push myself as hard as I possibly could to find out anything that I could and get results and get better and get control of my life again because I hated my life. I hated it. My life sucked. In here a lot and in here. When I first started off on this whole like experimentation adventure and trying to get into fitness, I was fearful of walking a kilometer, and I'm not joking about that. Everything scared me because of how much pain I would get in and how much it would consume my mind. And now I'm training to run 8,000 kilometers next summer, so I've made a lot of progress. I'm a little bit edumacated towards this. I went to school for kinesiology just to try to understand biomechanics, biochemistry, arthritis, just more aspects of the body and the condition itself. And that's where I started experimenting intensely, was during my classes. I just immersed myself in physical activity. When I first started out on this entire adventure, I was trying to figure out like, how do you frame things up? How can you create strategies and how can you create like systems for yourself to make sense of different symptoms that show up? When it comes to exercise, there's 3 ways that I labeled the pain. The first one's acute pain, which are flare-ups. Flare-ups are the worst. Flare-ups are the absolute number one thing that suck the most, I would say, with this condition when it comes to pain. The second one is chronic pain, which is like daily residual pain that you just have on an ongoing basis. It fluctuates much less than flare-ups. It's much more consistent, and I would consider it to be quite a bit more gradual with how it goes up and goes down. And the third one I labeled as discomfort. It's that feeling that you get when your joints feel like they're loose. I used to get this all the time, and it would primarily be in my hips and throughout my spine, where I get it in my hands sometimes too, where like you literally, it just feels like your joints are loose and they're falling apart almost. It signals the brain that something's really wrong, and it feels really uncomfortable to go and do anything with it. The way that I tackle each individual thing as it shows up, I'll start with flare-ups. Go-to test that I created for myself was go for a 20 to 30 minute walk, something like that. I'd say about 90% of the time, for the last 10 or so minutes, my symptoms would start feeling slightly reduced. If they felt reduced at all, that was my sign to go to the gym and do very, very low level weights, super controlled stuff, like really go just slow, chill, consistent, relax, don't do anything crazy. I would typically start on the elliptical machine, and I would go and do that for about 15 minutes with real low resistance just to get my body moving, get it warmed up, and then I'll graduate up to strength training, and I'll just, again, like 20% of what my 1 rep max would be. I never know who's listening to this or who understands exercise. 1 rep max, it's how much weight you can actually push as hard as possible in one rep. So for a squat, for me, it's like 380 pounds or something like that. 20% of that. What I find too is that when I do go to the gym, if I do keep it quite controlled, I would say the vast majority of the time, I'll find that I'll stick around the gym for quite a bit longer, because as my muscles tend to warm up, about half hour to 45 minutes in, I'll notice that I can really start to climb with how much I'm lifting and how much I'm exerting myself with exercise. So it's this process of like, I don't try to push myself crazy hard. It's really just trying to recover from the flare-up overall. And it's worked quite consistently for me. And I'll just to backtrack on that walk test, 90% of the time I walk, it warms it up. It's fine. It's probably even more than 90%. But if I'm not feeling that good, I would take the day and just do self-care, which looks like sauna, meditating, reading, playing video games, getting a haircut, several things to de-stress, because what I find is that stress really seems to elevate flare-ups. There's some weird connection. I used to think it was voodoo and pseudoscience and blah, blah, blah. I thought it was just me, but it's been so consistent throughout the last 10 years that I've noticed. It's not that surprising that your body freaks out when you're super stressed out and you're not feeling okay. So I do exercise a lot during flare-ups. It's something that I find recovers flare-ups faster. And yes, it is painful and it is very ridiculous some days. When I first started out, just to be really vulnerable and clear, I remember like crying on my way to the gym while I was walking there. Like, it's no joke. It's so hard. The one thing that I will say about flare-ups and causing them, CrossFit type exercises seem to really do it for me. It's really intense dynamic movements. So like trying to do muscle ups, like powerlifting too. I always found that my body would fight me back aggressively when it came to trying to push my max deadlift. All these different things. I really went for like full strength, and I went to find out what my limitations were, and I backed off of that after a couple of years because I found I just kept getting beaten up completely in a way that like I'll never go back to. But I think you can still get incredibly strong, especially like I stick to low volume balanced exercises. Let's skip a beat and let's go to discomfort, because discomfort's a bit different. That like weird loose joint pain of flare-ups, chronic pain, and the discomfort. Discomfort was the only one that I found didn't really have a lot of specific things that I could point to that was causing it. My feeling is because of my exercise progression throughout the last 10 years, it has something to do with overall strength in the area. I'm only saying that because for the first 5 years of my experimentation, I did notice it wasn't super rare that it would show up, but for the last 5 years, it really hasn't shown up as much. I mean, the only thing I can attribute that to, just with my Neanderthal thinking, is that because I've gotten so much stronger over that period of time, that I think that's a large part of it. I don't know. I'm just a Nimrod who's had this condition for a long time, who's made a lot of progress. What I will say when it comes to tackling that discomfort, I found going to the gym helped tremendously. The key was a lot of movement with a little bit of resistance. I always found walking never seemed to do it. Jogging would be way too much. Something like that would be way too intense. And what I discovered worked super well, I would do the elliptical with low level resistance, not too high, for a longer period of time. And then what I did find, similar to flare-ups, was that I could increase the resistance slowly over time and just try to get myself over that hump. And what I found was that when I started to get over the hump, I would switch over to strength training. Similar to flare-ups as well, I would do really slow and controlled stuff, and I found that usually within 30 minutes to an hour, I would definitely start to feel substantially better, to the point where sometimes it would actually go away. Let's jump ahead to chronic pain. The reality with chronic pain is that I have been a thick-headed doofus towards it. Here's the thing that I get kind of worried about when it comes to talking about exercising and not being a professional about this, is that I had this really, really intense fear that I was causing myself more degeneration. I was so desperate that I wanted to gain so much more control out of my life that I was willing to get stronger and physically more functional with the risk of damaging my joints. I just want to err on the side of caution, because the last thing I want to do is have anyone push themselves way too hard and progress their condition in a way that is irreversible and shitty for the rest of their lives. With that being said, I put myself through so much pain. I found out after 3 years of pushing myself like an absolute lunatic, I had very little degeneration. It was this like, holy shit, this is actually working. So the pain I discovered that I've felt and that I was feeling didn't equate to degeneration. That's the weirdest thing to me. This is the thing about the condition that I don't fully understand. Unless someone else figures out why, I don't understand how you can be in so much pain and not have progression or degeneration of your joints. Like I said, I've been in pain like every day for 20 years. And sometimes it's been much worse, sometimes it's been less. But my joint degeneration is slow moving. If anyone out there understands, leave it in the comments, because I don't. With that being said, when it comes to chronic pain, genuinely, I think the sky's the limit. That's just my philosophy on this. And this is just coming from my own experience. Like, I push myself so hard. I do whatever I possibly can within the limits of feeling that much pain. It's the best way that I can put it. I know this is not the best explainer for it. It's just that like I give zero fucks about chronic pain. Flare-ups are a different story. I've caused myself so many flare-ups from my exercises, just through curiosity and experimentation and trying to push myself. And it's something that I found is that they've gotten easier to handle for that reason, I think. The other thing I want to say about this is that long-term thinking is the strategy that worked for me. To be exceptionally clear here, I didn't even know it was working for about 2 or 3 years. Like, it wasn't until I had made so much progress that I looked back and realized like, oh, there is a significant difference between how I'm feeling now and all my pain and symptoms versus the very beginning of the entire adventure. It wasn't so significant that I was like, oh, I definitely know what I'm doing. I know that I'm going to feel much better. I know that this is going to resolve so many things. I just noticed that there was progress. It wasn't until about, I want to say like 7 years until I started to feel really confident. I thought that I was going to reach a plateau somewhere, and I haven't so far. I just want to say it might take way longer than you expect to get to where you want to go. The psychological tricks when it comes to actually exercising, especially at the worst of the worst times. I'll give you guys a little secret that I do. I find one song that makes me feel like an absolute badass, and I listen to it from the moment that I know I'm going to start packing up for the gym. I listen to it on repeat over and over and over again, and then I listen to it at the gym on repeat over and over and over again. It just gets me in this like meditative, energetic mindset that I'm just like, I'm going to push myself through whatever. It does not matter. This is the advice that I give to other people, is that like, I think you have to think that you're a badass while you do it. I just think you do. Like, no one understands pain that well. None of us get taught how to deal with pain psychologically, and exercising has this added layer of anxiety because you're going to put yourself through more pain. And I just want to say, like, it has been so worth it. Remember how I said I used to cry on my way to the gym? I cry on my runs now because I'm so alleviated with how great my condition has gotten and how well equipped I feel at dealing with it now. And the other thing, when it comes to my symptoms and my condition, there's this little part of me that really wonders, did my condition get that much better in a way, or did my pain tolerance go up and my ability to have action plans for every single outcome of a negative symptom? Did it get so good that now I go on autopilot and I can just cope much better? Because I don't actually know. I think it's a combination of both, though. And I think that with exercising and pushing yourself really hard, I think that there's a lot to be said about the exposure therapy that you're actually putting yourself through with inducing more pain. What I will say too, my exercise routine and protocol became cardio first. I'd hit the elliptical for about 15 minutes and it turned into HIIT training. So I would do 2 minutes of like a steady chill pace, and I would do 30 seconds, really much higher resistance, much faster, really try to get a bunch of bang for my buck. Because what I found was if I exercised much longer than like 15 or 20 minutes on cardio, would induce more flare-ups in myself personally. That was for most of the last 10 years. I really capped myself at about 15 or 20 minutes for cardio because I would really push. I'd push very, very hard, and I found that was my happy medium place. And with HIIT training, specifically HIIT cardio, you can get so much out of a 15-minute session. Look into the exercise science behind it. The reason why is because when you do those intervals, you're forcing your body to try to utilize oxygen better. And what it does is it actually increases something called your VO2 max. So like your body just gets better at trying to take in oxygen and use it. Whereas like if you just do a 30-minute session of cardio at a very static pace that's relatively low resistance and chill, probably won't get the same benefits. Get more out of it when you do HIIT stuff. HIIT is high intensity interval training, by the way. And then I would do like 45 minutes of strength training, and I kept it very consistent, and I would try to keep it full body. I never really cared about isolating certain muscle groups on certain days, because what I found is that if I did too much on one thing, again, I would cause more chronic pain and more flare-ups. So I would just try to keep an overall balance. That is the last thing that I'll say. I do still a lot of balancing exercises. There's something that I haven't been able to figure out exactly why, but when you're doing stabilization, so like there's like balancing boards at my gym, there's yoga balls, there's all sorts of things. And what I've always found is that there is something about your overall functionality, your overall muscular strength and coordination. It seems to be so beneficial. My body seems to crave balancing exercises. It took me a long time to recognize that. It was only when I started doing balancing exercises and then took them out, and I took them out several times, is when I realized like my body seems to function much better when I do a lot of balancing and stability exercises. And to be totally clear, guys, the reason why like I don't want to make personal training videos right now, specifically because I just don't have time. I will at some point, for sure. I'll try to go through all the different exercises that I do, and I'm going to try to just post what I do on YouTube and stuff like that. But what I do today is so much different than what I used to do. Like running and training like this is not even close to what I used to do. The one thing that's really tricky about making videos like that, and maybe it will work for you guys. Again, I've talked to so many people who've been really successful with the condition and the physical fitness side, the nutrition side, their sleep protocol, all sorts of stuff. And I'll say this over and over again, is that like it seems to be stuff that works for some people is not what works for other people. Like that seems to be really apparent. I'm not trying to say that to be discouraging. I'm saying that to be encouraging. It's that like, imagine you have some keys to figuring out your condition that you just don't know yet. That's how I tried to look at all these different exercise routines, about being more disciplined about my life and about trying all these different things, was that I was like, what if there is a way that I could fit myself into like a certain box? I just don't don't know what that box looks like yet. I don't know where that box is, but I have to keep trying things until I can find all of these different aspects that fit me into a box that relieves me a lot of my condition. And it's not just necessarily lifestyle changes, but it can be also developing new skills and coping mechanisms for dealing with stress and pain and all those different aspects that come with this condition. That was a lot. Looking at 31 minutes of me rambling that I gotta edit now. You guys are fucking awesome. I didn't get to stress, and I will talk about that because it's a weird one. But we'll get to it. Because there is a crazy connection between stress and the condition. It's wild. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace, everybody.